This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Judika Illis's Magic Spells Oracle, published by Wiser Books. Judika Illis, best-selling author of the Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells and repeated Witch Wave guest, has created the ultimate toolkit for practicing the healing, transformative power of magic. Magic Spells Oracle, published by Wiser Books, includes 36 full-color cards that offer clarity and inspiration to focus your intention and rebuild your power, with guidance through life, relationships, career, travel, and more. The cards are divided into the elements of air, earth, fire, and water, and the accompanying guidebook outlines the framework for crafting your home altar, how to charge your oracle, how to read and find inspiration in the cards and their layouts, and how to connect with your inner wisdom to deepen your magical practice. Judika is a lifelong student and practitioner of the magical arts, and in my opinion, she is one of the most knowledgeable and brilliant witches writing today. Her other titles include Pure Magic, Witches, a Compendium, Protection Spells, and Magic When You Need It. Discover the magic in everything, including you, with her new Magic Spells Oracle. Today's episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Witch Baby Soap. Do you like to dwell in the shadows but stay squeaky clean? Then Witch Baby Soap is the soap for you. They make fabulous occult-themed body products like coffin-shaped bath balms, tarot card soap, and crystal-embedded body butters. Their recipes are made with magical intentions, and they're free of all of those nasty things like sulfates and parabens. And now you can get 15% off orders using offer code WITCHWAVE. That's WITCHWAVE, one word, on witchbabysoap.com. So get ready to wind down, lather up, and get some Witch Baby Soap products using offer code WITCHWAVE now. So I was just introduced to a truly splendid new tarot deck called the Meta Muse Tarot, and I absolutely love its gorgeous retro collage artwork, which modernizes the arcana without losing its meaningful symbolism. The images are so beautiful and fantastical, which you know I love, but also really elegant and diverse, and the whole deck just feels incredibly special with gold gilt edges, and it also comes in a collectible 2-piece hardcover box, and it has a 168-page guidebook, so the whole experience is just super deluxe. The Meta Muse Tarot is ideal for beginners as well as experienced readers because it follows the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, but what makes this deck unique is that in addition to its stunning artwork, there are many correspondences included in each card. Now, as you might know, each card in the tarot also has astrological, elemental, and even Kabbalistic associations, and this deck has all of that included in the artwork and in the guidebook, because exploring all of those associations and symbols adds so much more depth and magic to a tarot reading. Now, customers absolutely love the Meta Muse Tarot and have given many 5-star reviews over on Etsy and Shopify. So get your copy of the Meta Muse Tarot today over at shopthemetamuse.com. That's shop, TheMetamuse.com. And be sure to use the code WITCHWAVE for 25% off. That's 25% off the Meta Muse Tarot using code WITCHWAVE.
The world is filled with bewitching people, and you might be one too. Welcome to the podcast where art is magic is real, and reality is stranger than dreams. I'm Pam Grossman, and this is The Witch Wave.
Hello, and welcome to The Witch Wave. Well, my new book, Magic Maker. Ever heard of it? It's coming out in less than a week, so I certainly have writing on the brain. And that is what today's episode is all about, because my guest is Kate Belew, the author of Word Witch. But before I say more about that, I just wanted to share a couple of quick reminders. So yes, Magic Maker comes out next week on October 14th, and there will be several live events to celebrate it over the coming weeks in Manhattan on October 14th, Brooklyn October 21st, Narrowsburg, New York on November 1st, yes, Samhain, LA on November 12th, and many more to come. But I also know that so many of you don't live on the coasts or near these cities, and so I've decided to do a virtual event with my dear friend and frequent collaborator, Jonica Stuckey. This will be a combination of an online workshop and virtual book launch, getting deep into the idea of creativity as magic. So do join us online on October 23rd. And yes, it will be recorded if you can't make it live, so grab your tickets either way. The best way to get more information about that and all my other events and to get tickets for them is to go to pamgrossman.com/events. You can also sign up for my newsletter over at pamgrossman.com and follow me on Instagram at Phantasmophile, where I'll be keeping that all updated too. I'm also going to be popping up on all kinds of podcasts and the Substacks of other magic makers I admire in the coming weeks and months and lots of other places. So get ready for all that too. Okay, so on to the topic of writing and witchery. There are so many ways to cast spells. You can light candles, make potions, draw sigils, paint an energetically infused picture. But there's something about the power of words that has always felt especially magical to me. Throughout my childhood and certainly during my adolescence, I identified strongly as a poet. And in addition to writing my own poems, I also kept this sort of grimoire, I suppose, of my favorite poems by other people, like Sylvia Plath, Pablo Neruda, Jeffrey McDaniel, Marge Piercy, Sharon Olds, Lucille Clifton. The list goes on and on. There's such power in words, and something about these poems I loved stirred a feeling in me of activation. I felt enlivened and electrified by the words of these writers, and ultimately, I was changed by these poems. And isn't that what a spell does? It transforms us. The connection between words and magic is ancient. There are scholars who translate the phrase abracadabra to mean, I will create as I speak. There are scrolls, incantation bowls, amulets, and magic circles inscribed with carefully chosen words believed to manifest a desired outcome or bring about protection from harm. Certain words written or uttered in a specific order or with a certain rhythm mesmerize us. When we read them, or even better, when we chant them out loud, we are taking part in one of the oldest forms of spellcraft. And so, by writing with intention, we are literally making magic. We are using the power of words to conjure change. Today's guest, Kate Belew, and I talk extensively about the witchy craft of writing. So if you're a word witch or you would very much like to be, this episode is for you. But before we get to that, first let's check and see what's come through on the Witch Wire.
Who is it?
Witches! Hey, Pam, it's Jen. I first just want to say congratulations on your new book. I know I and many other people cannot wait to get my hands on it. And so I'm very much looking forward to reading it. And I know it's going to be full of inspiration and wisdom and beauty and creative fire and all of the good things that are badly needed in the world right now. So my question actually is about this. I have been working on a writing project for a little while, and I was curious if there were any tips or guidance, advice, things you wish you had known when you started out on this writing journey for yourself. Any kinds of like practical earth magic kind of things that maybe you don't necessarily talk about in the book, or tips for the rewriting process or tips for how to get it out there. And I don't know. Anyway, just anything that you wish you had known when you started out on this journey yourself. Sending you so much love, so much magic, and so many blessings of success for your work. And I know it'll do wonderful things out in the world. Bye, my friend.
Thank you so much for your message, Jen, and for this question. Okay, so I'm hearing that you're looking for practical, material, earthy recommendations, but I'm going to do you one better and give you both a sacred answer and a mundane answer. So the sacred answer is to keep asking for help from spirit throughout the entire writing process. That includes asking them to help you find a publisher, to help you complete the first draft, to help you edit, to help you to release the book out into the world when it's ready. I've been doing this throughout the entire process of writing Magic Maker, and I'm continuing to do it as I'm preparing to finally release this book into the world. I've been working very closely with the god Mercury for this particular book. He's also known as Hermes in the Greek pantheon, though he really responds when I call him Mercury in my case, so that's the name I tend to go with. Anyhow, this is really his book as much as it is mine. He's the god of divine messages and traversing boundaries between realms, so he's a great one for writers to commune with and invoke and petition for assistance. And so I have a couple book altars which incorporate Mercury into them. I burn incense for him, especially on Wednesdays, which is Mercury's day if you're following traditional magical correspondences. And I just love him up as much as I can, especially lately. And quick story, I was in Phoenix this past weekend for the Witch Summit, and when I checked into my hotel, they had a big glowing sign on the front desk that said, "Go Mercury, win!" And I cracked up and just had full body chills because I get signs from spirit on the regular, but it's pretty rare for it to be a literal sign. Anyway, I quickly realized afterward that Mercury is the name of the Phoenix WNBA team who were playing that night, but spirit has a sense of humor and in my experience will communicate with us in any way it can. So anyhow, I recommend you try working with Mercury or some other resonant guide or deity that you can devote your book to, and you can lean on them for magical support. Okay, so now for the mundane answer, and I'll just boil this down to a couple quick tips and tricks. And every writer is different. Everyone's brain works differently. So this might not all work for you. Ultimately, it's about figuring out how your brain works. But here are a couple things that I have found helpful. Number 1, write an outline. Make it pretty detailed. You can absolutely change the outline or change the book or reorder it as you go. In fact, you likely will. But having that initial map that I could literally go back to and refer to was so helpful. And it's especially helpful when I'm writing during those times of feeling stuck or overwhelmed or kind of lost. The outline or the map is particularly helpful because it also allows me to jump around. In other words, I don't always write in a perfectly linear order. Sometimes I skip ahead to a section that I'm really excited about. And in Magic Maker, I actually call this following the fascination. But anyhow, an outline ensures that I don't get totally lost at sea. Number 2, if you're writing nonfiction, trust me here, keep good track of your sources. Some people like to use software for this, like Scrivener. Now, I tried to use Scrivener to write Magic Maker. It did not end up working for me in my brain, but so many other writers love it as a way to keep a book organized. I just use Google Sheets, and they're kind of a hot mess, to be honest, but at least it's a place that I can always, again, refer back to. You may want to go back and reference your original sources as you're writing. You may decide to include a reading list or a bibliography in your book. Just trust me, keep good track of your sources in one place. Number 3, anything you cut from your book, put into a separate document because you may end up using it for a future project or even deciding to go back and include what you cut after all, just in a different place. So don't permanently delete whole chunks of your book or lines that you love but that feel like they don't quite fit in. Put them somewhere else. Put them in another doc or Google Sheet and use them as compost. And number 4, when you release the book, don't be afraid to promote it or ask for people to help you spread the word about it. Even the biggest publishers aren't able to fully support all their authors from a sales and marketing perspective, and the smaller presses certainly struggle with this. And look, they're all doing their best, but be prepared to take on a lot of the promotion yourself. I've been fortunate in some respects that my books are with some of the bigger houses, but even they don't have money for book tours, and they also don't have the relationships that I have. They have certainly been helpful. They've gotten me some interviews and some events that maybe I couldn't have gotten on my own. But I'm telling you, a lot of what you see me doing in terms of appearances and press is because I reached out to people I have relationships with, or they reached out to me directly because of our relationship. So don't think you can rely on your publisher alone to get this book into other people's hands. Your community, your magical network is going to be so much more helpful than you can imagine. And of course, you can always call on Mercury or your guides to help you release the book too. Happy writing, Jen, and I can't wait to read the words you conjure. Now, on to my guest. Kate Belew is a poet, witch, and the author of the new book, Word Witch: How to Call Upon and Cultivate the Creative Magic Within You, which is out now. Kate's work exists at the crossroads of creativity and magic, and she teaches workshops around the world on the topic too. She also happens to be a green witch who studied under my mentor, Robin Rose Bennett. So as you can imagine, we had lots to talk about, and it was such a pleasure. Remember, you can watch the video of our conversation over on my YouTube channel, which is at Phantasmophile. Kate joined me live in the studio here in Brooklyn. Kate Belew. Welcome to the Witch Wave.
Hi, Pam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming in. It's so nice to see you. I know our paths have crossed in person a few times, but we haven't had a chance to really sit down and chat other than your podcast, which I was just on.
It was so much fun.
So it is such a treat to be here with you in person. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So we are here to celebrate and dive into your new book, which is Word Witch: How to Call Upon and Cultivate the Creative Magic Within You.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, this is a topic that is very close to my heart. You and I are both witches who make things.
Mm-hmm.
And you in particular are a writer, you're a poet, and you're also a witch, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about how you realized you were a word witch yourself. What is your word witch origin story?
Well, I've always been a poet. And so the first poems that I remember writing were dictated to my mom, and she would write them down for me. And they were about magical things. They were about fairies and unicorns and nature. And those were just like the first kind of topics that I fell in love with.
Yes.
And like the path is wild and windy, but like those loves, I think, were kind of like woven through. And in my young 20s, when I moved to New York, now almost 10 years ago, it was sort of this realization that like that writing that I had been doing, my love of like the plants, my love of magic and ritual were kind of one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I was like, I think that what I'm doing is word witching. I'm a word witch, like poetry, writing. It's how I make sense of the world and of magic. And that's how I connect to that source, that divine thing, that mystery. Meeting that space on the page is kind of what felt the most natural to me. And I think it was through Frances F. Denny's book and talking with her where I kind of had that realization in Major Arcana. I was like, I'm a word witch and I'm claiming that for myself.
Yes. And for listeners and viewers, Frances F. Denny is an incredible photographer.
Mm-hmm.
She's been on the Witch Wave. She's a dear friend and she's taken a lot of my photographs. But she also did this incredible series called Major Arcana.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really kind of a, would you call it an anthropological visual study of
Mm-hmm.
modern witches? And so I sat for her, you sat for her, and many other witches in our community got
Yes.
to not only have our portraits taken by her, but also talk to her about how we engage with that identity as witch.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So powerful.
Yes. And so tell me more about talking to her and why that unlocked that phrase for you, word witch.
Yeah, we were sitting in an apothecary having tea.
As one does.
Yes, it was the best. And I was just like, this is what I have dreamed of for my life, basically. And it was just something like there was something so catalytic about talking through with someone that believed in similar magic or was trying to kind of coax those threads out that like helped me come to see that aspect of my identity that maybe I had kept a little more hidden or to myself or private because I was really trying to protect that thing. But I felt so seen and honored by her in that way. And I was able to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And like working in that space, it's like where I first saw your work and Robin Rose Bennett's work. I was like, okay, to be a witch, to be a creative, to be an artist, like New York is able to hold this identity for me and I'm able to kind of meet myself there in that dream.
Yes. Oh, that's such a beautiful way of putting it. Yeah, I still am deeply in love with New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I moved here actually in 1999 because I went to NYU.
Amazing.
So I've been here most of my life. I've been here my entire adult life and I have not fallen out of love with it. I've definitely had ups and downs,
Sure.
but I love it here still. How do you feel about being a witch in New York? You talked a little bit about it helping you hold these different identities, but I'd love to hear more about that.
Recently, my mom is selling our childhood home. And so I had to go back and I was kind of unearthing all of these artifacts from like my teenage self.
Where's the home?
In Michigan,
Uh-huh.
in Marshall,
Mhm.
Michigan. And so I found this letter when I was 15 that I wrote. And it was like, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to move to New York City and I'm going to have a dog and maybe a husband. And I was like, okay, wow, 15-year-old Kate, good job. Like you saw it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at now. And so I just feel like it was New York.
The husband,
was
the dog,
everything.
all of it.
Yeah, it was like, I'm going to live by a park.
Yes.
I live between 2 parks in Brooklyn, and it was like that vision of the thing. And so New York, I think, was always that dream. And I'm so grateful to have both Michigan and New York as a part of my identities, because I feel like they both fuel my creativity so much. But New York City, people are always like, I'm shocked you don't live in like a cottage in the woods. You're a witch. Like, I don't know if you get this too, but I'm like, oh, there's a witch in every corner bar in New York City.
That's right. That is so right. I think there are witches in every city. I mean, we're everywhere.
Yes, watch out.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. You invoked the name Robin Rose Bennett.
Yes.
She's someone who's so important to both of us. She has also been on the witch wave. This is my mentor, the Green Witch, Robin Rose Bennett. And you studied with her as well. Tell me how you came to meet Robin.
Yeah, so I met Robin for the first time when you were doing an event with her at the Alchemist Kitchen in the basement there. And you two had gathered these mugwort wands, which was
She gathered the wands.
Okay.
Let's be clear. Robin is often showing up with like an abundance of plants wherever she goes. Yes, that was all Robin.
So magical. You handed out the wands to us. And
I did help her hand out the wands. I'll take credit for that.
I think we called a circle. Maybe that was my first time ever experiencing that. And I went home and I took this mugwort and I put it under my bed. And that night I had a dream about Artemisia vulgaris just like bursting up through the sidewalks everywhere. And I was like, I'm going to study plants. I want to work with plants. Like, I want to work with Robin when the time is right. And so years and years went by. And then in 2020, I had reconnected with her through some event work. And I was like, I want to do the apprenticeship. And she was like, let's do it. I did the 3-year apprenticeship that you did at her home, and I work in our clinical practice now, which is a lot of fun. So
how wonderful.
I'm in her 2nd year of that, and so learning so much. And
I love that so much. And one of the things that really comes through in Word Witch is your deep love of nature. It's interesting because I grew up in suburban New Jersey. I had little woods in my backyard. And I definitely played in the woods, but I didn't identify as like a hardcore like nature girl. I loved Artemis and had a deep relationship with her, as I still do. But I was definitely like, I couldn't wait to move to New York City. And I remember meeting with Robin and encountering her and realizing for the first time in my 20s, like, wait a second, New York City also has nature in it.
Yes.
And I am nature, and nature is everywhere. Like, you don't have to move to the woods. And it sounds like you're able to engage with nature in this urban environment as well, very, very deeply. And I'd love to hear more about that.
people are so upset about the rats, but I'm like, there's something so storybook about them, you know? Like, they're like, I'm like, this is not so bad. Actually, when I was unboxing Word Witch in the park, in McGorlick Park, a hawk landed in front of my husband and I, and we were like,
wow.
Hello. And so you don't need the woods, you just need one tree, you know?
Yes.
And there's trees all over the city, and that's beautiful.
So speaking of birds, you write so beautifully about birds in Word Witch.
Thank you.
And we should say, you know, this book is organized like a magic circle. You really call in the elements, and you have a lot of chapters that are associated with different elements and so on. And I want to dive a little deeper in how you chose to organize the book. But I believe birds show up in the air section. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so what is it about your relationship to the element of air and to birds in particular that you think helps make that connection between your word self and your witch self stronger?
Yeah. So the air chapter kind of is invoking new beginnings and inspiration and the breath, and how breath fills our writing and our bodies and sort of is this like galvanizing force. And I see birds as such an embodiment of that. And in the last few years, I've just had a couple of really intense poetic experiences with both starlings and turkey vultures, both having to do with kind of the death of my last living grandparents, which on both sides happened within a week of each other. And so I was spending all this time in Michigan and just looking at how turkey vultures are this like divine alchemist and an oracle and a messenger. And I was learning so much from them. And I was like, they want to be in the book. they want to be a part of this sky poetry, like their feathers, the way that they paint the sky. It's like brushstrokes in the sky and sort of like organizing a poem. Like if you've seen the murmuration of starlings, they do make sort of these poems in the sky. And I was like, we learned so much from that about togetherness, about creativity. And so they were really longing to be in the book. I was honored to have them.
So beautiful. Okay, I got ahead of myself. I get overexcited sometimes. Let's zoom out a little bit and talk about the book.
Mm.
What made you decide that Word Witch is the title of the book and also the essential like thesis statement of the book? How did this book come to be?
I think I had the title before I knew how I was going to do it, because I was like, okay, I want everyone to feel connected to their creativity. I want everyone to know they're a writer. I want everyone to feel connected to their magic. I think magic and creativity are both inherent to us as human beings. It's our birthright. And so the book then was sort of created around this idea, and you brought in the elements. And so working with the elements, calling the circle, made real the altar of the book, while also helping guide people make their own altars on the page and in their lives, and to kind of make real in a multiplicity of ways both of those ideas.
Yes, yes. I love how you write about altars in the book. And essentially the structure of the book is first you kind of set the stage for us. You have us really engage with the notion of altars. You said a phrase that I wrote down, which is the page as an altar, which is such a beautiful concept. This idea of this space or this vessel that we then fill with magic, right? Is that how you were conceiving of it too?
Yeah, definitely. I think that so many people look at a empty page, and this has been, myself too, is that it can be this sort of scary or intimidating thing. But if we look at it as this place of altar making, of offering, of sort of communing with the divine or that mystery or that magic, then I feel like it takes away some of that pressure to show up and be right. Like that Leonard Cohen line, like there's no perfect offering,
Yes.
And so that is definitely essential to the book for me.
Yeah. And so as the reader, you have us engaging with this notion of altars, both the page, as we mentioned, but also like literally building an altar. And I know in my practice, learning to build altars consciously, because the point you make in the book is that people build altars all the time without even realizing it. But consciously building magical altars is probably the most recommended tip I give people when they're asking, like, how do I start to be a witch? How do I engage with magic? How have altars and altar making helped you as a witch and a word witch?
Yeah, I think that they make the magic, and that intentionality that you brought in is so important, I think, to the whole thing. It's like people on their desks have photos and they have, like different knickknacks or tchotchkes, and it's like they're doing it without even realizing it. And so I'm like, look at that magic. Like you're already a magic maker, a writer. And so it was more of like a guidance to be like, look at how we can make these things real in the world and how you're already doing it.
Yes.
And they can be built out of things that we already have or found in nature, and sort of making it accessible to people.
And why do you think that helps writing in particular, building an altar?
I think that it creates a sort of like shift in energy or in space, like bringing in that intention. It's like I'm sitting down. When I feel like my world is romanced or more magical in any ways, I'm always having more fun writing. Like
romance,
the flowers.
Please give it to me. Yes.
Make your space the thing that you want to be in, so that you can sit down and like do the thing.
So do you literally have a writing altar for yourself, or do you have several? Like, if you don't mind me being a little nosy, what does your physical space look like as a writer and a witch?
Well, I have my great-grandmother's desk, which I've just brought back from Michigan, which is really wonderful. My car looked so funny driving back. I'm just like down the I-80 for 10 hours with this desk. So it's kind of wonderful to write on that because I feel connected to my ancestors through that, through Ella. Then there's a desk altar that I can kind of see when I'm working. So different items that kind of invoke different things. There's a silver deer and an antler from my grandfather's land. There's my grandma's ashtray that she used to smoke out of. There's, a dish of water, all these kind of different things. And then behind me, I keep an ancestor altar. So I kind of feel like they're at my back. I have this big doily that my husband helped me frame with cedar as a part of the apprenticeship with Robin. So it was made by a great aunt in Poland, and my grandma mailed it to me before she passed. And she was like, I think this thing is so ugly, but you have to have it. And so she would be probably mortified to know it's hanging up in my office. But
it sounds cool. What does it look like? Is it like spider webby or? Yeah.
It's like this big circle. Yeah. Sort of geometric in a sense. And
that's so powerful. What an incredible ancestral bit of talismanic magic.
Yeah. And the weaving, the stitching, it feels so like writing to me.
Say more about that.
The word spinster, I think, comes from the spinners, and I think I write about this in the book, but there's sort of what do we say, we weave a tale or we tell a yarn or any of this, and there's such a kinship, and the storytelling that happens over this weaving between women or creatives or storytellers, I think it's especially potent, and so it kind of invokes that thing for me, weave the story, tell the yarn, tell the tale.
So beautiful, and I also love the spidery, witchy sort of connotations too.
Yeah, spiders are such a good, I think, symbol or oracle for creativity, or they can be.
Oh, for sure, for sure. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Robin Rose Bennett. So many of you have heard me gush about Robin Rose Bennett, my mentor and beloved friend who is a green witch. I studied with Robin for years, and she's been a guest on The Witch Wave, and lucky you, because you can study with her too now. She is offering an inspiring new online course rooted in almost 40 years of learning from and about the plants and her deep connection to the earth and spirit. On October 8th, she will be offering a free live webinar called Plants as Healing Allies. What's love got to do with it? The best. You're not going to want to miss this free webinar. Just trust me. Just sign up for it. Robin is life-changing. And if you choose to continue with her, and I highly recommend you do, this is followed by the course Herbal Self-Care as a Radical Act, Healing Self and Culture. This is a 4-week course beginning on October 22nd, and it will be offered through the Quantum School, which is a donation-based, woman-run organization. The course begins with a Samhain ritual of death and rebirth, honoring the ancestors and the future generations. You'll then go on to celebrate the full moon, explore the gifts offered by the notorious Mercury retrograde, and then you'll end at the beginning with a new moon ritual where you'll plant vision seeds of intention in the fertile darkness of your imagination. You'll be guided throughout by wise elders known as the plants, and of course, guided by Robin herself. Self-care is a radical act, and with the help of the plants, it is not selfish. It is essential. And I'm here to tell you that one of the greatest gifts of self-care you can give yourself is to learn from Robin Rose Bennett. I'm always recommending Robin's classes and books to anyone who listens, and now it's your chance to learn from her yourself. For all information, go to robinrosebennett.com or find her on Instagram at Robin Rose Bennett. That's RobinRoseBennett. The Witch Wave is sponsored by BetterHelp. Did you know that October 10th is World Mental Health Day? And this year, we're saying thank you, therapists. I feel so lucky to have found a wonderful therapist who I see remotely every week. And I'm not kidding, she has truly made my life better. I even thank her in the acknowledgments section of my new book because having her to talk to throughout the whole process of writing it and now releasing it into the world has been so immensely supportive. She talks me through my anxieties and my excitement and helps me come up with good strategies to keep myself centered and steady no matter what emotions are bubbling up that week. The right therapist can change everything. And BetterHelp has over 12 years' experience in matching people to the right therapist. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct, and they're fully licensed in the U.S. And they have a therapist match commitment. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences, and their industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they typically get it right the first time. And if you aren't happy with your match, switch to a different therapist at any time from their tailored recommendations. BetterHelp also has a broad reach with over 30,000 therapists. It's the largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works, with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Best of all, Witchwave listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/witchwave. That's better, HELP.com/witchwave. Hey there. So people are always asking me how they can get more Witchwave, how they can work with me, how they can find magical community. And my answer is join the Witchwave Patreon. There is where you'll get bi-weekly bonus Witchwave Plus episodes, as well as ad-free Witchwave episodes and detailed show notes for all. The Witchwave Patreon is also where I lead a monthly online magical ritual, which you can attend live or watch the recording of at your convenience. And that's available for members at all tiers. And then rewards for some other tiers also include magical merch and contests where you can win Witchly prizes, as well as getting early heads up about my workshops before they sell out, and opportunities to get magical one-on-one guidance from me. And all backers get access to our exclusive digital coven, where you can connect to a community of other wonderful Witchwave witches around the world. So head on over to patreon.com/witchwave and sign up. It's a marvelous way to get more magic in your life and to support the show. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Witchwave. Okay, so you start us off in the book talking about altars and foundations, which I found really, really powerful, because it's not only about this kind of tablescape or shelfscape or what have you. It's also about physically like what that material is made out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why did you want to specify between altars and foundations? And how do you see the difference between those two?
Well, it gives us like a good place to like land. And I think some people are like, where do I start? Like myself included. So having a relationship with like that meeting point also feels very witchy to me, like the liminal where things meet. And so I was like, okay, consider the materials, consider where we're doing this. Like, is it on the roots of a tree? Is it on the desk? Is it on a mantle? Does it have to be secret? You can put it in a shoebox. Any of these things can be a foundation. And then in our practices too, I wanted to have people make some commitments to themselves. I wanted people to claim things so that when we were going off into this like writing ritual adventure, people kind of knew a place they could return to. So like I really wanted people in the book to claim the words writer and witch for themselves if they resonated with them, or any other word. But I think that there's something so powerful about that claim. And I think that there's very few things we can kind of claim for ourselves, but naming ourselves is one of those things. And so, yeah, I had a poet in third grade, Conrad
I was going to ask
Hilberry.
you about this. I'm so glad you're about to tell this story because it touched me so much. Please go ahead.
He came to our third grade class.
What was his name?
Conrad Hilberry.
Yes.
Beautiful book, The Fingernail of Luck, for anyone that wants to dive in. But he took all of our journals, and I actually just refound my journal with this in there, but he wrote our names and then signed his and was like, is a poet. So it was like, our names is a poet signed by Conrad Hilberry. And I, at the time, felt so empowered by that. And in third grade, I'm like, I'm a writer. Like,
yes,
he says it. He's a writer. And then now looking back on it, I'm like, oh, he knew how important that claiming of self was. And he was trying to give that to us, I think. And so that's my interpretation of it. And I wanted to pass that on through the book, like claim it for yourself.
Yes, I think that is so true. Certainly of words like writer or artist, and certainly of a word like witch.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, I think, are looking for that permission slip from someone else. There are a lot of people that I interview on this show or just talk to in my life who feel witchy, but daren't call themselves a witch. They feel like, I don't know, they haven't earned it. They haven't been initiated. They don't come from a lineage. And what I have told them is like, if you feel like you're a witch, then that word is yours. You know, as we often say, there's no pope of witchcraft. Like, yes, there are ways to deepen your practice and your identity. But if you're a witch, you know it. Do you think that's true of being a writer or a poet as well?
I do. Yeah. And I think that those three words are really in kinship with each other there.
Say more about that. I love that. And I agree.
I mean, when I talk to people about being writers, similarly to being a witch, they'll be like, when I was young, I was a writer. And there's this sort of like past tense or this like unwillingness or the shyness or unable to like step into that because they're afraid that it means something that they should have already like felt initiated into or something like this. But it's like, do you write? You're a writer. Like, and that can be any kind of writing. If it feels right to you, then it's yours and we share it.
Mm-hmm. This book, as we said, it's organized also by elements. And maybe if you could highlight a couple of the elements to show people or illustrate to people how you associate each element with a different energy or a method of writing, that would be useful for them.
Yeah, we start in the east with the air, and that for me is breath and inspiration and beginnings and birds. We move into the south for fire, and that is inspiration, it's play, it's automatic writing, it's Baba Yaga's house.
Yes.
Then we go to the west. Water is working with our cycles of creativity. It's listening to the moon. It's listening to the seasons. It's forging a connection with that cyclicality that's so innate to us as humans and creatives. And then in the north, we have earth, and that's poems and songs and witnessing and walks and stones and the trees. And then we go to spirit, which is sort of like the below, the above, and the center. And that's thresholds and dreams and ancestors, both ancestors in the familial sense and then the larger sense of like creative ancestors. And then we open our circle and there's a few like seasonal prompts and annexes and stuff like that.
Yes. Yes. See, and I wasn't even going to test you and make you go through the whole book, but you did. And I'm so glad you did. And I want people to get the sense of the fact that not only do you write about all of these different concepts so beautifully and lyrically and magically, you also give a lot of exercises. You give a lot of prompts. You give, I think you call them poetry vessels. Am I right about that? Which almost remind me of, and I don't mean this in a trivializing way, but it's almost like reverse magical Mad Libs.
Yes.
Like you'll give fragments of beginnings of maybe lines and then kind of prompt people to finish the poem, if you will. Am I explaining that well?
100%. Yes. And I love that, magical Mad Libs. Yeah, because I was teaching a writing class online and giving like a classic poetry prompt. And I had a friend in the class who would not call herself a poet, had not spent any time writing. And she messaged me on the side and was like, I love you, but where do I even start with this?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm looking at the page. You've given this beautiful prompt, these words, and I still have no idea where to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that's like a really real problem. So like reverse engineering it, like how do we invite people into poetry if they feel that they don't know where to start? So it's like, here's a word, like let's meet on the page in the middle. Like you can finish the sentence, like see how that line feels when you breathe your own words into it. And so through that sort of creative collaboration, people can kind of fill the vessels up and then hopefully go off on their own to write their own poems once they know what that impulse feels like and once they know how to like meet the ritual of poem making.
I also think it's useful for people who are writers or do consider themselves writers already. It's just a fun exercise to take the beginnings or little kernels or seeds of something and then see what you can add to it and how it can flourish in your own style. I just think
it's like
it's
play.
really cool. Yeah, exactly.
Creative play.
Exactly. So you brought up poetry. You studied poetry. You have an MFA from Sarah Lawrence. I love poetry as well. And to be clear, Word Witch is for anybody who wants to write anything in any style. But you definitely give poetry a lot of extra love. And
Preferential treatment.
I was hoping I could get you to read a little section from the poetry part in the book. Here you go. I marked that for you.
Thanks.
You know, my intention with this is just to talk about poetry as a magic spell, if you will, because I know that's something that's really close to your heart.
Yeah. Poems are doorways, pathways. Asking if they are good is like asking if a tree is good or if the soil is good. They are all different, generative, and alive. I am affirming through these pages right now that if you want to call a piece of writing a poem and it felt empowering, creative, freeing, and human to create it, then yes, it was important that you wrote it, whether or not others might consider it to be good or bad. Write the poems. They will be your own, crafted from a lifetime of witchery, enchantment, and the wisdom the earth has imparted. Write them because they come to you. Dreams, visions, visitors, waiting to be written. The Word Witch is a poet.
So beautiful. I love that so much. So you started this conversation talking about dictating poems to your mom, which is so tenderhearted. I love that so much. Your mom sounds awesome.
Thank you, Mom.
But when did you start really cultivating your poetic practice?
Well, I was always the kid that was getting sent to the different, like, older classroom for, like, reading and writing. And so I was like, this is my thing.
Yes.
And so the books and the poems were sort of together. And that was sort of like how I made sense of the world into teenage years, which were difficult and complicated and weird. Like, I always had poems. When I got to Kalamazoo College, which is where I did my undergraduate, I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to, like, quote unquote, do with my life. And people kept asking me, and I was like, I feel like I should know. And I remember going into the office of Diane Seuss, who is an incredible poet, and she was my academic advisor there, and being like, I don't know, maybe I'll be a lawyer or something. And she's got fish bones hanging in her office, and she's drinking coffee out of a jalapeno jar. And she's like, girl, I think you're a poet. I was like, well, I can't argue with this. You know, like
yeah. If someone has fish bones hanging from their wall, you should listen to them.
100%. So I studied with her through my time there. I ended up doing the New York Arts program. So I came here. I worked at Poets House for a semester. And
I love it there.
So special.
Was this when it was still on Spring Street?
It was in the Battery then.
Okay.
As straight as that.
Got it.
But I got to work at the front desk, and then I got to go with Dave Johnson, and he was a teaching artist in schools. And so I would be his assistant, and a whole world opened for me for poetry. And then when I moved here, I Googled weird poetry, and I came...
Wait. You Googled weird poetry.
I was like, I need to find like the weirdos that are writing stuff. Like, I want to be one of them.
Yeah.
And so I found the Poetry Society of New York.
Are they weird?
So weird in the best way. So I started performing with the Poetry Brothel.
Oh, incredible.
Which was really fun. And so that was like, that's my poetry family here. And so they've really just been so much magic.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And so why do you think poetry is a very magical art form because it's clear that you do. It's certainly a sentiment I share with you. But how did you come to that conclusion?
Well, it's like, where did the poems come from, you know? It's like, it feels so magical to like sit down with the empty page and make something out of nothing but these sort of like dreams and visions. In the book, they feel like visitors to me. Is that how they feel like to you? Like,
yes.
This sort of like being to be like, oh, like it's channeled through me.
Yeah. It also feels like there's something concentrated about a poem, even though poems can be very light. There's like a density of energy there because usually, not always, they can be any length, but usually they're shorter. And so you're packing in this really dense amount of like potency and presence and concentrated magic.
Matters.
Yes, every word matters.
Like on an altar, it's like intention behind every single word, everything on the altar, that altar on the page, make it all count.
Yes. In this section, I don't want to step on your toes and talk too much about my own book, but there is like a cousin feeling between our books. Yes. And, you know, I think we were writing them at the same time. So there's something in the ether that like wants to express itself.
Yes.
And I was really touched by that, especially in the poetry section, because we both write about Lucille Clifton. We both mentioned Sylvia Plath, you know, many, many other poets who were also channels, or in Sylvia's case, were at least playing with Ouija and so on. Who are some of the other poets that you think of as real word witches that you really, really love?
Who do I think?
Alice Notley you bring up in the book.
Oh, yeah. She's amazing. Emily Dickinson has just always been so important to me. I don't know that she would have called herself witch but there's something very, like, especially her envelope poems feel so magical to me.
Kate, okay. I'm going to bring some controversy to the witch wave. Dude, I can't stand Emily Dickinson's writing. I fucking hate it. I know. This is how I get canceled in my world, right? Just like proclaiming.
That's fair.
But it's so weird. I don't know why. Like, it's just never resonated with me. I don't know why. And I've tried, and there's certain lines I think are beautiful. And she has a couple super witchy poems. And I'm like, surely these are going to be my gateway drug to Emily Dickinson. I don't know why. What am I missing, Kate? Tell me about Emily Dickinson's magic, please.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I feel like maybe she was just like the first poet that I read. And so like my dad had this book. It was like Emily Dickinson for young people or something to that effect. So we would open it and like we would read the poem and he'd be like, what words do you not know in this? I was like 8. So we'd be like, I don't know what supercilious means. So we'd like go get the dictionary. We'd pull it out. We'd look up the word. We'd read it. We'd talk about it. And then we'd talk about what was speaking to us in the poem. And so it was sort of like this maybe first poetry experience where I was like, oh. And the first poem I ever memorized was her I'm Nobody, Who Are You poem.
Yeah.
And there's something so witchy about, because she talks about communing with like a bog and a frog and being nobody. And I just like fell in love with this poem, but she can't be for everyone.
But I feel like I'm broken. Like something about my brain, because everybody I know just loves her work. And when you talk about her work, I'm just like, you call her M- a magic wand in this book. And I'm like, that's so beautiful. Maybe now I'll love Emily Dickinson. Anyway, Emily Dickinson, blessed be. We honor you. This is my shortcomings. I'm sure it is. And obviously she was an outsider and living I hear that she wasn't as isolated as sometimes people say she was, but she was still like relatively introverted, to say the least. Quite possibly, probably, maybe definitely queer, right?
Yeah.
I don't follow her too closely, but I think I picked up on that along the way. So she has all these like super witchy vibes. I get it.
Yeah. What about Lorca? Do you like Lorca?
I love Lorca. And we both write about, please
the
talk.
Duende.
Yes, we both write about that in our book too. It's amazing how these things just like want to come through. Yeah. So please talk about Lorca and Duende, because this is one of my favorite subject matters too. Please, please, please.
Yeah, so the Duende is a spirit in folklore, as sort of like a goblin or a creature. But then Federico Garcia Lorca kind of takes this folklore idea and gives in the theory and play of Duende a lecture, this sort of idea that we have our angels and our muses, and then there's the Duende.
Yes.
And all that has dark sounds has Duende, and it sort of surges up inspiration through the soles of the feet. And it's this like earthy and feral capacity for like death and suffering in making, and it's like so stunning.
Yes. It's like this kind of gothy, romantic, dark spirit. And it feels very like chthonic and
Yes.
earthy and, I don't know, fungal.
Yes. Mycelial.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
duende comes to you and you can't avoid it.
Yeah, that's right. And I've said this before, and I think I write about it in Magic Maker, that when there's something that's really popular, if it doesn't have duende, I probably won't like it.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to name names, but let's just say there are some pop artists who are very popular right now, and people think they're like amazing lyrical geniuses. And I'm like, there's no duende there. Like, it's just not for me.
Mhm.
On that note, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back.
This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Mithras Candle, as it so often is. Fall is here, and with the cool autumn air and darkening evenings comes a radiant tool for creating the perfect sacred setting or cozy moment. Of course, I'm talking about Mithras candles, my favorite. For 10 years, my mythic and scientific pals in Philadelphia have been hand-making gorgeous beeswax lights inspired by their experiences in science, magic, and mysticism. Mithras candles come in natural golden yellow and sensual black, with other colors and collaborations popping up throughout the wheel of the year. I'm obsessed with these candles. If you've listened to The Witch Wave for any amount of time, you will know that. And I know that you will be hooked as well once you experience the Byzantine hand-dripped style of a Mithras candle and their honey floral aroma. These candles are made with soul to carry your intentions to where they are needed. Go to mithrascandle.com to pick up the perfect glowing addition to your magical moments. And best of all, Witchwave listeners get 25% off their first order by using offer code WitchWave at checkout. That's offer code WitchWave over at Mithras Candle. M as in magic, ITHRAS candle.com.
Hi, Witch Wavers. I know, and you know, you want some Witch Wave merch. And our print-on-demand merch site is now available through Dashery. So if you want to get different variations of our gorgeous Witch Wave logo designed by Thunderwing, or our Witches Are the Future catchphrase designed by Lara Antal, printed on everything from t-shirts, mugs, totes, stickers, magnets, notebooks, you name it, you can. Shirts come in different styles and fabrics and are available in sizes small through 5XL, so you can order whatever you'll feel you're most comfortable and most magical in. So head on over to witchwave.dashery.com. That's witchwave.dashery.com, or you can click the Dashery link in the Witchwave shop over at witchwavepodcast.com/shop.
Welcome back to the Witch Wave. Let's talk about creative ancestors. It's one of my favorite topics. We've already invoked some of these poets. Who are some of your creative ancestors, and why do you think it's important that people commune with their creative ancestors?
Yeah, I was so excited when we talked about this on Magic and Alchemy. But yeah, I think
that's your wonderful podcast. Yes, shout out.
So I guess who are some of mine? Well, Emily, Lorca, like who else do I just love? Of course, whenever I think
Monica
about it,
Furlong,
Monica
we both
Furlong.
love.
Yes.
Shout out to Wise Child. I was
Oh.
so thrilled to see her name in your book because people don't know enough about Monica Furlong.
Yes.
Wise Child is one of the most incredible young adult or young reader books about witches and magic and nature ever.
Go read it if you haven't, please.
The whole series is beautiful, but especially the first book, Wise Child.
Yeah. Yeah, my cousin's other grandmother, which is like such a funny like thing, had a bookstore and she gave me a copy of it. And I was like, well, Grandma Jan, who's not my grandma, but is Sarah's grandma, is giving me this book. I like need to read it.
Yes.
So such a special book. But
What about this character who comes up in the book a few times, Carla? Is she still with us?
Carla is still with us.
Okay, so she's
Yeah.
not
Hi,
quite an
Carla.
ancestor yet.
No.
Carla, we hope you live a long time. We're not trying to rush your ancestorship.
Yes. My grandma, when she was alive, was a good friend. And so she would come visit and would bring the tarot cards and the stories and the strange pieces
She was
of
your magical
pottery.
pusher.
Yeah,
we
she
all
was.
have them. We all have the person who's like sliding the tarot cards across the table.
What about
to us.
this?
Yeah. Oh, what about this candle? What about
Mhm.
this weird little book?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lock of hair in a jar. Like, what do you think it means? Like,
Yeah.
everything was a mystery. It was so fun, you know? Like,
Carla, you rule.
mhm.
Yeah.
It's all these people, too, that owned bookstores. Like, she had a bookstore. So it's just like,
Yes. Yes. So in terms of ancestors, so Carla's still with us, but you
Mhm.
named a few others.
my grandma was a painter. So I never met her. So Grandma Joyce, but I feel her in my creative practice. Diane DePrima.
Oh, yeah. Same.
I love the quote that you pulled in the Magic Maker about the only war is the war on imagination. I was like, yes, like amazing.
Yes. And how do you think these creative ancestors assist you in your word witchery?
I think that they remind me that we make and write in a long lineage and in a long line of makers. It makes me feel less alone. There's that James Baldwin quote where he talks about you think that you're alone in an experience until you read a book, and then you realize that you're just part of like an incredible humanity. And so I think that reading the work of poets, feeling connected to them in a creative ancestorship sort of makes me feel like, okay, like my poems that I'm offering, my writing that I'm offering, it's hopefully just like a little moon sliver in the vast Milky Way of creativity. And so I long to be a part of that. I long to be connected to that. And I think that just knowing that they're there is like a source of great support and magic.
Absolutely. Speaking of other collaborators that are, well, I was going to say non-human, but I suppose the ancestors that we just mentioned, of course, they were human, but now they're non-human. They're in the immaterial realm.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about collaborating with nature as a word witch. You write about it so beautifully in the book. And I think a lot of people think of nature as something like, yes, you can paint a landscape or you can go like Mary Oliver style and just write beautiful nature poems. But I feel like you were talking about something even deeper. How do you engage with nature from like an oracular standpoint?
Well, Mary Oliver, wonderful creative ancestor to weave into. But from an oracular standpoint, I mean, I personally have never gone on a walk and not felt inspired. And as you said earlier, we are nature. So I think when we're sort of working with that idea of the wild, it can really help guide us. I mean, it's like the hawk landing in the park, the rat scurrying past you in the subway, like the trees, they all have messages. And I think that they can encourage us to slow down, to listen. I see so many people looking at their phones on the sidewalk. And I'm like, did you check out that cherry tree? Like, hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all we need for writing. Like, we don't need anything else except for our witnessing and our attention, which is like such a great gift and ritual to make the thing.
Yeah. So how do you recommend that people work with the book? Like, do you want them to go step by step? Because they very much could. There is an order to this book. What do you envision and what do you recommend?
Yeah, I would invite going in order. I would invite people to maybe, give themselves time and space with each chapter. Like, I might spend a week on each, or I might look at it and be like, okay, so like the new moon is happening here and the full moon is here. Like, how do I spend my time with each of these energies? Or, even working over the course of a year or whatever your sort of inner seasons are. And some people like a more condensed approach and some people like a more spacious approach. And so I really wanted to honor all of that in the circle.
But you do see it as like there's a beginning and there's an end. So there is like a cycle for people to complete. There's a magic circle for you to cast and sort of walk the path of, right?
Yeah.
And you recommend people are writing along with the book, right?
Yeah, write in the book, write in your journal. I talk a little bit about finding a journal that speaks to you, a word witch journal. For me, that's like the extra large black moleskin soft cover with no lines in it.
No
Like,
lines.
No lines.
Thank you. No dots, no
No.
grids. What are we doing?
I'm glad you're no line club.
Absolutely no lines. I don't understand it.
No,
but
because you got to like have the crazy handwriting and the notes and
I think
part
so
of it,
too.
for me
I think so
anyways.
too. For me too. Anyway, no judgment
Yeah,
if you like.
if you need the lines,
Although
it's
if you're
okay.
a dotted grid person, you're crazy.
I don't know any of those.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You're wonderful and you're perfect just as you are. So you recommend people write along with the book.
Mhm.
And what are your hopes and intentions for the book? What do you hope people will get out of it?
I hope that by the end, people will feel that they have a creative and a magical practice in their life that feels really like them, really authentic to them, that allows them to write the thing, that allows them to make the thing to feel as magical as I know that they already are.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that they're writing poems and books and stories and sharing them. I just want people to know that they're already a word witch if you long to call yourself a word witch.
I love that so much. Now, you are a word witch, and you and I can also relate to the idea of writing a book about creativity and also putting into practice the techniques that you're talking about to generate the book. It's this
Mhm.
weird, like super meta, like double consciousness.
Yeah.
What techniques helped you to write this book? What was your experience like writing it? Did you find yourself leaning on some of your own recommendations? Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, I made an altar for it. So I was like,
Perfect. Love a book altar.
and I feel like making the altar while working with the idea of it, it was like, okay, like this is real. This makes it real in the world. And so I could kind of get out of my head a little bit. I was also like, okay, Kate, like what do we actually do? Is that how you felt too? I'm like, actually, how am I making these things? And like, what has worked in my classes and workshops? And like, as an Aquarius, my brain will like skip like 16 steps.
Aquarius. Yes.
Yay.
See, Kate, I feel like we are cousins.
We are. Which cousins? What day are you?
Yes, I'm Valentine's Day.
January 29th.
Oh, so you're an early Aquarius. Very nice.
But yeah, I don't know if you feel like this, but sometimes my brain has skipped 16 steps ahead and I'm like,
Yes.
wait, step one.
Yes.
Like, where are we? And so I think that the foundation chapter really gave me my own foundation to write the rest of the book. Because I was like, okay, we just got to go back to this. We have the elements, we have the things, like how are we building that altar on the page and how are we creating like that lantern and that guide through that spiral?
I'm so happy you brought up the word lantern because we just have a few more minutes left. But you bring up this phrase in the book that I think is so beautiful, which is the phrase soul lantern. And you bring it up in the context of this beautiful quote. And I'm always nervous to pronounce her name because I always feel like I'm getting it wrong. But
Same.
it's Clarissa Pinkola Estes or Estes. She wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves, which I imagine a lot of listeners and viewers are familiar with. But she's written a lot of other books and essays. And there's this beautiful essay that you quote from that she writes called We Were Made for These Times. And actually, maybe I'll have you read her quote from her essay right there.
The light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, build signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire, to display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy toward others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity.
Love it. And she's essentially talking about the fact that in difficult times, in tumultuous times, in dark times, we can call upon our inner light, our inner fire, our inner word witchery to benefit the world and to help each other. And that she literally calls this essay, We Were Made for These Times. And she's like, take heart. Yes, things are dark, but we are ready for it. And you go on to write about this concept of the soul lantern. And I would love for you to talk about that phrase and why you think as writers and witches, we can share our soul lanterns with each other and how that can help hopefully
Yeah,
each other
hopefully.
in this dark, dark time.
Yeah. I'm someone who's painfully shy. And so I feel that the idea of Soul Lantern has been something that's been really helpful for me in my life because I would rather do it scared than not do it.
Yes.
And so I also feel like I know that in order to find my people, to find others that are making and writing and are witches and magical, I have to be brave enough to kind of step into that place and claim that for myself or share that part of myself. And so that's kind of been like my guiding tenet of it's like, yes, like the quote unquote, like, who am I to do this? It's like, who am I not to do this? Because of my ancestors, my creative ancestors, my community, it's like I have the responsibility to share this part of myself with the hope that it gives someone else the permission to share those parts of themselves. And so if we all are sort of passing that torch to each other, like we look around, it's a lit up room.
Yes. Yes. I just got the chills. And especially now when I know that there are people in power who want us to be silent and they want us to dim our light and they want us to stop writing and they want us to stop sharing our art. They wouldn't be banning books,
Right.
and they wouldn't be taking certain paintings out of the Smithsonian and shutting down drag shows and all these things if those things didn't matter, right? And so in our final moments together, how can being a word witch help people and help the world in this dark time?
Being a writer, being a witch, being a word witch, they tell the truth. So our stories matter. Our stories are important. Feeling connected to magic, to our creativity, the ritual of being alive matters. So showing up to that altar that is our lives, if we all do that together, if we all claim those things for ourselves, if we all tell our truth, hopefully we can make the world a better place. And that's everything.
That is everything. Kate, I know people are going to want to learn more from you. In addition to studying and working with your beautiful book, Word Witch, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at K8Belew.
That's K, the letter 8,
Yes.
Belew.
And my website, katebelew.com. And then I'm on Substack under Word Witch. So come write with me.
Yes. And also shout out once again to your beautiful podcast and your co-host's name again.
Kristen Lisenby.
Kristen
Listen
Lisenby.
to Pam's episode.
Oh, yes. My episode's coming out
Can't
down
wait.
the road. And the podcast is called Magic and Alchemy. And it's so, so beautiful. Kate, thank you so much for being on the Witch Wave.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's it for the show. Thank you again to Kate Belew for sharing her word witchery with me. Do you have questions, feedback, need some witchly advice, or just want to share something magical that happened to you recently? Drop us an email or a voice memo over at witchwavepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and you just might make it on the Witch Wire. Please check out the video of my conversation with today's guest and prior guests over at my YouTube channel at Phantasmophile, and please like and subscribe. The Witch Wave is a Phantasmophile production, written and produced by me, Pam Grossman. We are 100% independently run and proud of it. This episode was recorded and edited by Josh Wilcox and/or Walter Nordquist and myself. Our theme music is the song Hand and I by Lycanthia. Our new Witch Wave logo was designed by Thunderwing. Special thanks go to Matt Freeman, Laura Antal, and Cece Pascal. Please pick up my books Magic Maker and Waking the Witch, or the Witchcraft volume I co-edited for Tashin's Library of Esoterica series. And if you want more Witch Wave, or you would just like to support the show, please join us over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/witchwave. Thank you so much for listening. Witches are the future. I'll catch you next time on The Witch Wave.